Is your favorite NFL wide receiver overrated, underrated, or properly rated? It's time to find out in another edition of my overrated, underrated tier list series. We've got wide receivers now. Make sure to comment what position you want to see next and like the video if you enjoy. Let's jump right into the tier list. Kicking off the list, we've got Jamar Chase. How can you really get a receiver more properly rated than Jamar Chase? Nobody's saying that he's worse than top 2, which to me puts him in properly rated. If he was clear and cut the number 1, I'd say he's underrated, but I think you can make an argument for 1. You can make an argument for him being 2. Next up, we've got Terry McLaurin, the Commanders' star wide receiver. I hate to say this, but I think he's slightly overrated. I do see him as a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. Very, very talented. I think he's closer to 10 than he is to 5. And many would disagree with that, which to me puts him slightly overrated. Next up, we've got Cooper Kupp, the new Seahawks wide receiver. We are going to make this board look nice and pretty because he is underrated. People, when I said that the Seahawks have a very good duo in JSN and Cooper Kupp, I got slandered because everyone said Cooper Kupp was washed. Cooper Kupp, I don't know if he's washed or not. I don't know. I don't think he is. And if he is washed, I'll take a washed Cooper Kupp over majority of wide receivers in the NFL. Cooper Kupp is still a fantastic wideout. I don't care. He's underrated. Nobody's saying Cooper Kupp is elite. Nobody's saying that. But he's still a very capable wide receiver, and if you think otherwise, you are underrating him. Moving on to Tyreek Hill, another wide receiver that's being underrated due to bad quarterback play this past season. He obviously didn't have the greatest statistical year, and I don't like Tyreek Hill very much as a Patriots fan, but I can see it when a player is underrated, and that's Tyreek Hill. If he was in any other situation, we could be talking about a 2,000-yard season. Okay, moving on to Brian Thomas Jr., He's now in his sophomore season with the Jacksonville Jaguars. What a great year from Brian Thomas Jr. People putting him in the top 10, I think, is completely valid. You can put him right at 10. You could put him at, well, I don't think he's quite at 10, but anywhere from 10, 11-ish to about 13, 14, I think is where he is, which to me puts him in properly rated. I don't think he's being overrated too often. Maybe some Jags fans here and there, but the average NFL fan knows Brian Thomas is a top 15 wide receiver, which puts him right in properly rated. Moving on to Mike Evans, a future Hall of Fame wide receiver. He is being heavily underrated. I see too many comments saying he's washed. He's still hit 1,000 yards. He's still a red zone threat. He's maybe not the same Mike Evans we've seen, but I'll take 50% of Mike Evans over guys like Darnell Mooney. That was disrespectful to Darnell Mooney. I'm sorry, Darnell Mooney. You are a very talented wide receiver. I meant to say Calvin Austin. Excuse me, water break. I'm not editing this out. You're going to have to water break with me. Okay. Ladd McConkey of the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to say properly rated, maybe leaning towards overrated. I think that he is a really, 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 really good wide receiver. He is fantastic, but if you're saying that he's better than Brian Thomas Jr. or better than Malik Neighbors from his same class, or even better than Marvin Harrison Jr., I think you're overrating him, to be honest. Moving on to T. Higgins, the other Bengals wide receiver. I think T. Higgins is becoming... he leans in the underrated to properly rated category. I don't think people appreciate T. Higgins' greatness enough, so I'm putting him in underrated. Just because he's the wide receiver 2 does not mean he wouldn't be an elite wide receiver 1, which he would be. By no shadow of a doubt, he'd be an elite wide receiver 1. Don't mind me. DJ Moore. He's getting pooped on like no other. Saying that he's not even a top 22 wide receiver, not a top 30 wide receiver. DJ Moore is being underrated. I know he had bad quarterback play last season. I don't like his effort issues that he was showing, highlighting like him getting frustrated so easily last season, but nonetheless, he's still underrated. A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown is properly rated. He's right there in that top 5 range, and everybody believes that. Moving on to George Pickens. Let's talk about a wide receiver that is so underrated. Nobody appreciates how great George Pickens is. He's a big play merchant, and I don't care. He is so fun to watch, and he is still a very talented wide receiver. I don't know why everybody hates on him. Moving on to DK Metcalf. Another guy that, I see overrated, I'm not going to lie. People will be saying that DK's top 15. He is not top 15. I'm sorry. I haven't seen that from him since the earlier years of his career. Maybe he'll bounce back in Pittsburgh. I hope he does because he's on my dynasty team, but I just think that he's an overrated wide receiver. Now we've got Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin is properly rated. Everybody knows that he's one of, if not the best wide receiver twos in the NFL, so properly rated. Courtland Sutton, I think he's underappreciated, but I'll put him in properly rated. I think that that's valid. I wouldn't say that he's a top 20 wide receiver, and I think majority would agree. Courtland Sutton's very good, and everybody knows that. Brandon Ayuk. I think at this point in his career, Brandon Ayuk's being underrated. He was injured pretty much all of last season. He had a little bit of struggles early in the year before he got injured because he wasn't at OTAs, some dropping issues. I think he'll fix that this season and remind everybody why he's a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL. Okay, now we've got Jerry Jeudy, overrated. I don't care. I don't care. I see too many people trying to tell me he's in that top 20 range. He is not. He's not. I don't want him as my wide receiver 1. I wouldn't want him as my wide receiver 2. He'd be a fine wide receiver 3. Now we've got Amari Cooper, properly rated. Is anybody saying anything good about him? I don't think so. Devonta Smith, underrated. He'll forever be underrated until he's a wide receiver 1 and can prove everyone that he is an elite wide receiver 1 in this league, which I think he is, and I think that he could show it if A.J. Brown wasn't there and could just join the Patriots. Anyways, moving on to Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens. I think Zay Flowers is underrated. He's not... No, never mind. He's properly rated. Nobody thinks that he's an elite wide receiver 1. We all know that he'd be an elite wide receiver 2, and he's a fine wide receiver 1, but you'd love to have somebody better than him for your receiver core. Now we've got JSN of the Seattle Seahawks. I think that he is also properly rated, just like Zay Flowers, kind of the same deal there. Moving on to Chris Olave. I think he's being underrated because of all the concussions. Every time I see someone say, oh, Chris Olave is really good, and then somebody's like, but concussions, that doesn't mean he's not a good and talented football player. He's still a very good wide receiver. I don't care about the concussions. I've gotten a lot of concussions, and I'm your favorite content creator. Moving on to Jameson Williams. I think he's slightly overrated. He had a fantastic year this past season, but trying to tell me that he's a top 5 wide receiver 2 in the NFL is going to make him overrated in my eyes, and it should make him overrated in many people's eyes, in my opinion. I don't think he's shown enough to be a top 5 wide receiver 2. Now we've got Justin Jefferson here, obviously properly rated. I think that it's fair to say that he's the 1 or the 2. He is the same case as Jamar Chase, in my opinion. Okay, Jalen Waddle, I think, is underrated for the same reasons I said about Tyreek Hill. Had a bad season last year, but he's still a fantastic wide receiver 2. Calvin Ridley, I think he's actually slightly underrated. He had 1,000 yards last season. Quietly was a very good wide receiver with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. Give him some love. He deserves more respect. I know he's kind of older and hasn't shown anything since his Atlanta days, but he has shown stuff. He actually has with Tennessee. Okay, Jaden Reed. Wow, I'm saying a lot of players are underrated because Jaden Reed is heavily underrated. Nobody appreciates him. I made a video about the Packers wide receiver room, and everybody said Jaden Reed is borderline a wide receiver 2. Would rather him be a wide receiver 3. I don't see that at all. He could be a low-end wide receiver 1 like Zay Flowers, in my opinion. We just need to see him get more workload. Moving on to Deebo Samuel. Washington fans, y'all be overrating the crap out of Deebo Samuel, so he is sliding right in the... Wow, I'm looking like a Commanders hater, but I actually love the Commanders, but... I'm sorry, your receiver room is overrated. Moving on to Michael Pittman Jr. If anybody's saying he's good, I don't think so. I'm going to put him in properly rated. We've got Jordan Addison, another wide receiver 2. I'm going to say he's underrated. Nobody appreciates how good Jordan Addison is, especially when Justin Jefferson isn't playing. He really steps up to the wide receiver 1 role. So effective when he's on the field and when he's stepping in as that wide receiver 1. So he's underrated. Now we've got Malik Neighbors. I think Malik Neighbors is properly rated. Everyone knows how good he is. Top 12 wide receiver in the league. Now we've got Devontae Adams. This one might be the most... Devontae Adams might be the most underrated wide receiver in the entire NFL. He's easily the best wide receiver 2 in the entire league next to Puka Nacua. How can people not see that Devontae Adams is still not a top 10 wide receiver? Sure, his connection wasn't quite there with Aaron Rodgers in New York, but he's still one of the most talented, best catchers of the football in the entire league. Now we've got Nico Collins, forever and always underrated. If you don't have Nico Collins in your top 6 or your top 5, you're underrating Nico Collins. He's one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL. Now we've got Rashee Rice. I think that he is also being wow. I think a lot of receivers are underrated, but I honestly do believe Rashee Rice is underrated. We're forgetting about him because he missed all last season. Patrick Mahomes is about to have an MVP level season, and half of it's due to Rashee Rice. Now we've got Drake London, a very underappreciated receiver his first couple years in the league, but I think now he's finally getting some recognition as a top 10 wide receiver in the league, so we'll say he's properly rated. Next up, we've got Stephon Diggs. As a Patriots fan, he has become overrated. Why are we hyping him up like he isn't coming off a crazy injury? He's old. I think he can be fine. He was playing good in Houston, but I think that we're overrating him quite a bit. He's barely a top 25 receiver one in the NFL. Now we've got Rome Odunze. I'm going to say he's properly rated. We haven't really seen enough for him for me to place him in other places. Now we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm going to say that he's properly rated, maybe leaning towards overrated. If you have him in the top 3, I think you're overrating him, but top 5 is fair in that 4 or 5 range, would make him properly rated. Okay, now we've got CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, I think, is a little underrated just because maybe there should be a forgotten tier because nobody remembers how good CeeDee Lamb is because of how good Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase is. Like, the gap is not very far from Lamb to those two guys, but people talk about it like Lamb is significantly worse than both of them when he's easily not. Now we've got Darnell Mooney, who I slandered earlier. He's definitely underrated. One of the best wide receiver 2s in the NFL. A guy that I think people would compare him to maybe like a Jerry Jeudy, but Darnell Mooney produces way more effectively than Jerry Jeudy does. Now we've got Jacoby Myers. I think that he's properly rated. He's like a good wide receiver 2. If you want him as your wide receiver 1, you are smoking. Moving on to Khalil Shakir. I think this is a guy that's a little underrated, honestly. Doesn't get much appreciation with Buffalo because he's not a high-end name. He doesn't produce the highest level stats, but he makes big play after big play after big play. Trust me, I watch plenty of Bills games to know that Khalil Shakir is one of the clutchest players on that entire roster. Now we've got Jawan Jennings. I think that he is very overrated. I see a lot of people trying to tell me that he's one of the best wide receiver 2s in the NFL. I don't quite see it. I know he stepped up as a wide receiver 1 last season for a good stretch of plays there. I think that he's a great big play guy, but I think that him being one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league is a bit of a stretch, so I'm going to put him in overrated. That doesn't mean he's bad. Now we've got Garrett Wilson. Heavily underrated. Nobody talks about Garrett Wilson the way we should, acting like he's not a top 13 wide receiver in the NFL. He really is, and nobody talks about him when they should. Give him a quarterback. Please give Garrett Wilson a quarterback. He deserves it. Rashad Bateman, I think that he's fine, properly rated. Nothing to rave home about, to be honest there. See what I did there, Raven? That's so Raven. Oh, man. Just unsubscribe. Just unsubscribe for that one. I'm sorry. I have to end the video out there. I'm not going to lie. I gotcha, April Fools. Oh, man, this is bad. I'm going off the rails right now. Puka Nacua. Underrated. Top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. And let's talk about it. If you don't have him in the top 10, you're underrating him, which I see all the time. So Puka Nacua is underrated. Now we've got 4 rookies. 4 rookies. And guess what? Travis Hunter, overrated. Tedero McMillan, underrated. Emeka Egbuka, overrated. Marvin Harrison Jr. Oh, that's not a rookie. Marvin Harrison Jr. Underrated. Okay, let me explain. Ted McMillan, underrated. Nobody's talking about him like he wasn't the, for sure, best pure wide receiver in the draft class. Not sure why we're not giving him any love. Marvin Harrison Jr., sure, he didn't have the greatest rookie season, but why are we acting like he's still not a fantastic wide receiver 1? Give him another year to show what he can do. Moving on, Travis Hunter, overrated. I love Travis Hunter, already one of my favorite players in the league, but stop acting like he's already a top 10 wide receiver in the league. He's not. We don't even know how many snaps he's going to play on offense. And then last but not least, Emeka Egbuka. I see a lot of stuff saying he's the best wide receiver in that wide receiver room just from a couple of OTAs or training camps. I'm sorry. No, he's not. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on these rookies. I think they're all going to be very good, but let's calm down. They haven't shown anything yet. So pump the brakes a little bit. Where did your favorite wide receiver land on this list? Comment in the comments below. If you agree, disagree, let me know your overall thoughts. My DMs are always open. Check the description for those. Until next time, y'all, peace out.